Karoline's journey was anything but smooth. Life had a way of throwing obstacles in her path, testing not just her resolve, but also her faith in herself and her mission. After starting her job at the real estate agency, she quickly realized that success wouldn't come overnight. The work was demanding, often requiring long hours and dealing with difficult clients who didn't always appreciate her efforts. But Karoline refused to let these challenges discourage her. Instead, she saw them as opportunities to grow stronger and smarter. One of the biggest hurdles came early on when she decided to try her hand at flipping houses, a risky venture that required both money and expertise. With the little savings she had managed to scrape together, Karoline purchased her first property, a run-down bungalow in need of serious repairs. She envisioned transforming it into a charming home that would sell quickly, earning her enough profit to reinvest in future projects. However, reality hit hard almost immediately. What started as a simple renovation turned into a nightmare of unexpected expenses. Leaky pipes, faulty wiring, and structural issues drained her budget faster than she could keep up. Contractors quoted prices far beyond what she had anticipated, and some even abandoned the project midway, leaving her scrambling to find replacements. For weeks, Karoline worked tirelessly alongside hired laborers, rolling up her sleeves and diving into tasks she had never done before. She learned how to patch walls, paint rooms, and install light fixtures, all while balancing her responsibilities at the real estate office. Her body ached from lifting heavy materials, and her mind was overwhelmed by the constant problem-solving. There were nights when she sat alone in the unfinished house, staring at the cracked ceiling, wondering if she had made a terrible mistake. Doubts crept in, whispering that maybe this dream was too big for someone like her. But every time those thoughts surfaced, she reminded herself why she was doing this. For her mom, Susan, whose sacrifices deserved to be repaid tenfold. Despite the setbacks, Karoline refused to give up. She poured all her energy into completing. Karoline Leavitt's story begins in a small, quiet town, where life moved at its own unhurried pace. Nestled on the outskirts of this sleepy community was a modest house that had seen better days. The paint on the walls was peeling, and the wooden floors creaked with every step, but to Karoline and her mother Susan it was home. It wasn't much, but it was filled with love, laughter, and countless memories. Growing up, Karoline didn't have many luxuries. New clothes were rare, vacations were non-existent, and birthday gifts were often handmade. But she never felt deprived because her mom always made sure she knew she was loved. Susan worked tirelessly as a nurse, juggling long shifts at the local hospital while raising Karoline alone. She was the kind of person who put everyone else's needs before her own. Whether it was staying late to help a patient recover, or sacrificing her weekends to ensure Karoline had everything she needed for school, Susan gave endlessly without expecting anything in return. Despite their challenging circumstances, she never complained. Instead, she found joy in the little things, a warm cup of tea after a hard day's work, watching the sunset from their backyard, or simply spending time with her daughter. One of the things Susan loved most was telling stories. On rainy afternoons, when the sky outside turned gray and the air smelled of earth, she would sit with Karoline by the window and share tales of her childhood. But there was one story that stood out above the rest, the story of her dream house. Susan described it vividly, a cozy cottage nestled by a shimmering lake, surrounded by lush greenery and vibrant flowers. There would be large windows overlooking the water, letting sunlight stream in during the day, and a wraparound porch where she could sip coffee and watch the world go by. At night, she imagined sitting under a blanket of stars listening to the gentle lapping of the waves against the shore. To Susan, this house represented more than just a place to live. It symbolized peace, happiness, and a sense of belonging. Karoline listened intently to these stories, captivated by the image of her mom's dream house. Even as a child, she understood how much it meant to Susan. Though they lived in a tiny, weather-beaten home, Karoline promised herself that someday, somehow, she would make her mom's dream come true. This promise became her guiding light, fueling her determination to succeed no matter what obstacles came her way. As Karoline grew older, she began to realize just how difficult achieving this goal might be. Money was tight and opportunities seemed scarce in their small town. But instead of letting these challenges discourage her, Karoline used them as motivation. She took on odd jobs whenever she could, babysitting, mowing lawns, even helping neighbors clean out their garages. Every penny she earned went into a special jar hidden beneath her bed, labeled Mom's Dream House. It was a humble start, but it gave her hope. School wasn't easy for Karoline either. While other kids spent their evenings playing games or hanging out with friends, she stayed up late studying, determined to excel academically. Her teachers noticed her dedication and encouraged her to aim high. One teacher, Mrs. Thompson, particularly believed in Karoline's potential. "You've got a fire inside you," Mrs. Thompson once told her. "Don't let anyone or anything extinguish it." Those words stuck with Karoline, reinforcing her belief that she could overcome any hurdle if she worked hard enough. Despite her efforts, life threw curveballs that tested her resilience. During her teenage years, Karoline faced moments of self-doubt and frustration. Sometimes she wondered if her dream of buying her mom a house was too ambitious, too far-fetched. But then she'd look at Susan, who continued to work tirelessly despite her own struggles, and feel a renewed sense of purpose. If her mom could keep going, so could she. By the time Karoline reached high school, she had developed a reputation for being resourceful and driven. Her classmates admired her ability to balance academics, part-time jobs, and extracurricular activities without losing sight of her goals. They didn't know about the jar under her bed or the promise she had made to herself years ago, but they could see the determination in her eyes. Karoline refused to settle for anything less than excellence, knowing that every achievement brought her one step closer to fulfilling her mission. After graduating high school, Karoline faced another challenge: figuring out what to do next. College seemed like the obvious choice, but tuition fees were daunting, and she didn't want to burden her mom with debt. Instead, she decided to take a different path. Through a family friend, she learned about an entry-level position at a local real estate agency. Though it wasn't glamorous work, answering phones, filing paperwork, and running errands, it gave her valuable insight into the housing market. For the first time, Karoline saw firsthand how homes were bought, sold, and transformed. She absorbed every detail, asking questions and observing the agent's strategies. Slowly but surely, she began to understand the intricacies of real estate. Working in real estate also reignited her passion for making her mom's dream a reality. As she accompanied clients to view properties, she couldn't help but imagine what it would be like to find the perfect house for Susan. Each listing sparked ideas in her mind, and she started envisioning ways to turn ordinary spaces into something extraordinary. The more she learned, the more confident she became in her ability to achieve her goal. Though her journey was still in its early stages, Karoline remained steadfast in her commitment. She knew it wouldn't be easy, and there would undoubtedly be setbacks along the way. But she also knew that giving up was not an option. Her mom had sacrificed so much to provide for her, and now it was her turn to give back. With unwavering resolve, Karoline vowed to keep pushing forward, one step at a time, until she could finally present Susan with the gift of a lifetime, her dream house by the lake. Little did she know, the road ahead would be filled with both triumphs and trials. But through it all, her love for her mom would remain her greatest strength. The day of the big reveal arrived, and Karoline's nerves were stretched taut like a guitar string. She had spent weeks preparing for this moment, double-checking every detail to ensure it was perfect. The house looked immaculate, cozy, yet elegant, with soft lighting casting a warm glow over every corner. Fresh flowers adorned the dining table, their sweet fragrance filling the air. Outside, the garden was in full bloom, vibrant colors spilling from flower beds and trailing up trellises. Everything was ready. Now all that remained was to bring Susan to the house and unveil the surprise. To keep her mom distracted until the last possible moment, Karoline suggested they spend the morning exploring a nearby park. "Let's take a walk by the lake," she said casually, knowing it would lead them closer to the house without raising suspicion. Susan agreed happily, always eager to spend time outdoors with her daughter. As they strolled along the water's edge, chatting about nothing in particular, Karoline could feel her heart pounding in her chest. This was it, the culmination of years of hard work, sacrifice, and love. She tried to steady her breathing as they approached the driveway leading to the cottage. "Close your eyes," Karoline instructed playfully once they reached the front gate. "I have a little surprise for you." Susan raised an eyebrow but complied, laughing softly. "What are you up to now?" she teased, her voice light with curiosity. Karoline guided her gently by the arm, careful not to trip over any uneven ground. Each step felt heavier than the last, anticipation building with every breath. When they finally reached the porch, Karoline paused, taking a deep breath herself before removing the blindfold. For a split second, Susan stood frozen, blinking against the sudden brightness of the sunlight reflecting off the windows. Then, as her gaze swept across the facade of the house, her expression shifted from confusion to astonishment. Her hands flew to her mouth, muffling a gasp, and tears began streaming down her face. For several long moments, she couldn't speak, her wide eyes drinking in every detail of the cottage. The wraparound porch, the large windows overlooking the lake, the carefully tended garden bursting with color. It was exactly as she had described it in her stories, right down to the smallest details. Karoline watched anxiously, her own eyes brimming with tears. "Mom?" she began hesitantly, unsure how to break the silence. But before she could say another word, Susan turned to her, pulling her into a tight embrace. "Is this real?" Susan whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. "Did you really do this?" "Yes, Mom," Karoline replied, her voice choked with emotion. "This is your dream house. It's yours." Susan pulled back just enough to look at her daughter, her face wet with tears but radiant with joy. "How did you— I don't understand. This is too much," she stammered, overwhelmed by the magnitude of the gift. Karoline smiled through her own tears, feeling a flood of relief wash over her. All the late nights, financial sacrifices, and sleepless hours suddenly seemed worth it as she saw the pure happiness etched across her mom's face. Unable to contain her excitement, Karoline led Susan inside, guiding her through each room and pointing out the personal touches she had added. In the living room, Susan ran her fingers over the vintage coffee table, marveling at its craftsmanship. In the kitchen, she opened cabinets and drawers, delighted by the thoughtful organization. Upstairs, she peeked into the bedrooms, imagining how peaceful it would be to wake up to the sound of birdsong and the sight of the lake sparkling in the distance. Every detail was designed to make her feel at home. And Susan couldn't stop thanking Karoline, her words tumbling out in a rush of gratitude. By the time they stepped onto the back porch, Susan was visibly emotional, clutching a tissue to dab at her eyes. She sank into one of the rocking chairs, gazing out at the water as the sun dipped lower in the sky, painting the horizon in hues of orange and pink. "I can't believe this is mine," she murmured, shaking her head in disbelief. "It's everything I ever dreamed of and more." Friends and family who had gathered nearby to witness the moment quietly approached, offering hugs and congratulations. They had all played a role in keeping the secret, and seeing Susan's reaction made their efforts worthwhile. One of Susan's closest friends handed her a bouquet of roses, saying, "You deserve this, Susan. You've worked so hard for so many years. Let yourself enjoy it." Susan accepted the flowers with a shaky smile, her emotions threatening to overwhelm her again. As the group lingered on the porch, sharing laughter and stories, Karoline took a moment to step aside and observe the scene. Watching her mom surrounded by loved ones glowing with happiness filled her with a profound sense of fulfillment. She had done this, not just for Susan, but for the bond they shared. This house wasn't just four walls and a roof. It was a testament to their resilience, their love, and the power of dreams. Later that evening, after everyone had left and the house grew quiet, Karoline sat beside Susan on the porch, both of them wrapped in blankets as the stars began to twinkle overhead. "Thank you doesn't seem like enough," Susan said softly, breaking the comfortable silence. "But I mean it with all my heart. You've given me something I never thought I'd have. A place where I truly belong." Karoline reached over and squeezed her mom's hand. "You gave me everything, Mom. You worked so hard to give me a good life. This is my way of giving back, to show you how much I love you and appreciate everything you've done for me." Susan leaned her head on Karoline's shoulder, closing her eyes as a contented sigh escaped her lips. "I'm so proud of you," she whispered. "You've always been my greatest blessing." In that quiet moment, under the vast expanse of the night sky, mother and daughter shared a connection deeper than words could express. The journey hadn't been easy, but it had brought them here, to a place of peace, gratitude, and unconditional love. And as the gentle breeze carried the scent of blooming flowers through the air, Karoline knew that this was only the beginning of a new chapter in their lives. After months of hard work and countless sleepless nights, Karoline finally began to see the fruits of her labor. Her first house flip, though fraught with challenges, eventually sold for a modest profit. It wasn't the windfall she had hoped for, but it was enough to reignite her confidence and prove to herself that she could succeed in real estate. More importantly, it gave her the capital she needed to take on bigger projects. With each new property, Karoline grew more skilled, learning not only how to spot potential in dilapidated homes, but also how to negotiate deals, manage renovations efficiently, and market listings effectively. As her reputation in the industry grew, so did her income. Slowly but surely, Karoline started building a financial cushion that allowed her to dream bigger. Yet, no matter how busy or successful she became, one thought remained at the forefront of her mind: finding her mom's dream house. She scoured listings during her free time, attending open houses and networking with other agents to stay informed about properties hitting the market. Every house she toured sparked excitement, but none quite matched the vision Susan had described over the years: a cozy lakeside cottage with character, charm, and a sense of tranquility. Then, one crisp autumn morning, everything changed. While scrolling through a real estate app during her lunch break, Karoline stumbled upon a listing that stopped her in her tracks. The photo showed a quaint cottage nestled by a serene lake, its white painted siding glowing softly under the golden sunlight. Large windows framed breathtaking views of the water, and a wraparound porch beckoned visitors to sit and linger. It was exactly what Susan had always dreamed of, the kind of place where life felt slower, simpler, and infinitely sweeter. Karoline's heart raced as she read the details. The house wasn't perfect. It needed some updates, and the price tag was slightly above her budget, but it was close enough to make her believe this could be it. For the first time in years, she felt a surge of hope so strong it brought tears to her eyes. This wasn't just another property. It was a chance to fulfill the promise she had made to her mom all those years ago. Without wasting a moment, Karoline reached out to the listing agent and scheduled a private viewing. When she arrived at the property later that week, she was struck by how much more beautiful it was in person. Standing on the porch, she could almost picture Susan sitting there with a cup of coffee, gazing out at the shimmering lake. Inside, the layout was warm and inviting, with creaky wooden floors that added charm and high ceilings that made the space feel airy. The backyard sloped gently toward the water, offering endless possibilities for gardening and outdoor relaxation. Karoline knew instantly that this was the house, but buying it wouldn't be easy. The asking price stretched her finances to the limit, and she would have to dip into nearly all her savings to make the purchase. Still, she didn't hesitate. This wasn't just an investment. It was a gift, a way to repay her mom for years of sacrifice and unconditional love. After securing pre-approval for a loan and negotiating the terms with the seller, Karoline signed the papers, officially becoming the owner of the lakeside cottage. As she walked out of the closing meeting, holding the keys in her hand, she couldn't help but smile. The hardest part was yet to come, keeping the secret from Susan, but she was ready for the challenge. With the house secured, Karoline threw herself into transforming it into the perfect home for her mom. She hired a team of contractors and decorators, carefully overseeing every detail to ensure the finished product would exceed Susan's wildest dreams. Walls were painted in soft pastel hues, reminiscent of Susan's favorite colors. Vintage furniture pieces were sourced to give the house a timeless, cozy feel. In the garden, Karoline planted rows of roses and lavender, knowing how much her mom loved flowers. Even the kitchen was updated with practical touches, like a farmhouse sink and ample counter space, making it ideal for Susan's love of baking. 2. Keep Susan distracted during the renovation process. Karoline came up with creative excuses to get her out of the house. "Let's go shopping," she'd suggest casually, or, "I heard there's a great new cafe downtown." On weekends, they'd take long drives through the countryside, stopping at scenic spots to enjoy picnics together. Susan never suspected a thing, trusting her daughter completely. If anything, she marveled at how much quality time they were spending together lately, grateful for the bond they shared. Behind the scenes, however, Karoline worked tirelessly to ensure everything was perfect. She spent evenings coordinating with contractors, reviewing design plans, and visiting the house to check on progress. Friends and family pitched in too, helping with small tasks and keeping the project a secret. Everyone who knew about it was sworn to silence, understanding how much this surprise meant to Karoline. The anticipation built with each passing day, and soon the house was ready for its grand reveal. The final touch came when Karoline placed a framed photo of her and Susan on the mantel above the fireplace. It was a candid shot taken years ago, capturing the two of them laughing together on a summer afternoon. To Karoline, it symbolized everything their relationship stood for: love, resilience, and unwavering support. As she stepped back to admire the finished product, she felt a mix of emotions: pride, excitement, and nervousness. What if Susan didn't like it? What if it wasn't everything she had imagined? But deep down, Karoline knew she had poured her heart and soul into this project. Every decision, every detail had been made with Susan in mind. And now, after months of planning and hard work, the moment of truth was finally here. All that was left was to bring her mom to the house and watch her reaction. Little did Karoline know the emotional impact of her gift would leave everyone present in tears, including herself. Life in the lakeside cottage quickly became a dream come true for Susan, and it wasn't long before the house began to feel like an extension of her soul. Each morning, she woke up to the soft glow of sunlight streaming through the large windows, casting golden patterns across the wooden floors. The sound of birds chirping and the gentle lapping of waves against the shore greeted her as she stepped onto the porch with a steaming cup of coffee in hand. It was a routine she cherished, a quiet moment of peace before the day unfolded. Susan wasted no time making the house her own. She threw herself into tending the garden, planting flowers she had always admired but never had the space to grow before. Rows of lavender, daisies, and tulips soon filled the backyard, their vibrant colors attracting butterflies and bees. A trellis covered in climbing roses stood proudly near the porch, framing the entrance like a scene from a storybook. Neighbors, passing by, would often stop to compliment her green thumb, and Susan beamed with pride each time. For her, the garden wasn't just about beauty. It was a symbol of renewal, much like the new chapter she had entered in her life. Inside the house, every room told a story. The living room became a cozy haven where Susan spent afternoons reading novels or knitting blankets for future grandchildren. The kitchen, with its farmhouse sink and ample counter space, turned into her favorite workspace, where she baked pies and cookies while humming old melodies. On weekends, Karoline joined her, and together they cooked elaborate meals that filled the house with delicious aromas. These moments of togetherness reminded them both of how far they had come, and how grateful they were to have this place to call home. But the cottage wasn't just a retreat for Susan. It also became a gathering spot for family and friends. Word spread quickly about the beautiful house by the lake, and soon invitations went out for weekend barbecues, holiday celebrations, and casual get-togethers. Susan loved hosting, delighting in the laughter and chatter that echoed through the rooms. Guests marveled at the thoughtful design and personal touches that made the house so inviting. "This place feels alive," one friend remarked during a summer picnic. It's like it has a heartbeat. For Karoline, seeing her mom thrive in the new environment filled her with immense satisfaction. Watching Susan sit on the porch sipping tea while gazing at the sunset reinforced the belief that all her sacrifices had been worth it. But the impact of the gift extended beyond just Susan. It changed Karoline too. The experience taught her the value of perseverance and the importance of giving back. She realized that success wasn't measured by wealth or accolades, but by the happiness and comfort she could bring to others. Encouraged by the positive response to her real estate ventures, Karoline decided to expand her efforts. She started working on more projects, flipping houses not only for profit, but also to help other families find homes they loved. Her reputation grew, and clients sought her out for her unique ability to transform ordinary spaces into something extraordinary. People appreciated her dedication and creativity, often referring to her as the agent who builds dreams. Karoline embraced this role wholeheartedly, knowing firsthand how transformative a home could be. Despite her growing career, Karoline made sure to carve out time for Susan. They continued their tradition of taking walks around the lake, chatting about everything from childhood memories to future aspirations. During these conversations, Susan often expressed her gratitude, not just for the house but for the bond they shared. "You've given me more than a home," she told Karoline one evening. "You've given me peace. Knowing we're here together, surrounded by beauty and love, is the greatest gift I could ask for." As seasons passed, the cottage bore witness to countless milestones. Spring brought bursts of color as the garden bloomed anew. Summer saw lively gatherings under twinkling string lights. Autumn painted the landscape in fiery hues, and winter wrapped the house in a serene blanket of snow. Through it all, Susan found joy in the simple pleasures, watching sunsets, listening to rain patter against the roof, and feeling the warmth of a crackling fireplace on chilly nights. Years later, when people asked Susan about her beautiful home, she would smile warmly and say, "It's not just a house, it's proof that dreams really do come true." And every time Karoline would beam with pride, knowing she had played a part in making those dreams a reality. Their journey hadn't been easy, but it had strengthened their relationship in ways neither of them could have imagined. Looking back, Karoline reflected on the lessons she had learned along the way. She understood now that life's greatest achievements weren't about individual accomplishments but about the connections we nurture and the love we share. Giving her mom the dream house had been a turning point, reminding her that true fulfillment came from selflessness and devotion. Susan, too, carried the experience with her always. The cottage wasn't just a physical structure. It represented years of sacrifice, resilience, and unconditional love. Every corner held a memory, every wall whispered a story. And as she sat on the porch, watching the sun dip below the horizon, she felt a profound sense of gratitude. Her daughter had given her not just a home but a legacy, a reminder that even in life's hardest moments, hope and determination could lead to something extraordinary. Together, mother and daughter embraced this new chapter, cherishing the bond they shared and the memories they created in the little cottage by the lake. It was more than a house, it was a testament to their unwavering love and the power of believing in dreams.